Okay, so we are doing investment. What are investments? Investing, how? Yeah, so you could put it in different accounts, which earns money. Can you also lose money? Yes. Now, isn't buying a house an investment? Buying land is an investment. Buying a car is an investment. Pretty much anything you finance is an investment. Okay. I guess you don't have to finance it if you have that kind of money, but I don't. So, okay. So just to let y'all know what the letters mean, P is for principal. It's the amount of money you're putting in. It's the amount of money you're investing. Okay. T is time in years. So if I tell you 6 months, how would you write that? 0.5, because it's half of a year. Does that make sense? You can't, if you put 6 in there, it's going to calculate as 6 years, not 6 months. Does that make sense? Always plug it in years. R is your annual percent. It's just, but you're going to change it to a decimal. So R is your rate, is your percent. And then I is your interest made. This is the amount of money that you're getting because of your investment. Yes? Okay. So knowing that, it says a teacher invests part of $12,000 at 6% annual interest and the rest at 9%. Okay, if the annual income from these investments was $945, how much did the teacher invest at each rate? So we're going to just think about what we know. Okay, we know that a teacher invested part of $12,000 at 6%. Do we know what part? No. So what do we use for what we don't know? X, and that was at 6%. If I turn 6% into a decimal, it becomes 0.06. And then the rest at 9%. Well, how do I represent what's remaining from the 12,000? Who remembers? How do you find the remainder? Your total minus X. So 12,000 minus X. And then it doesn't really tell me time, but it says annual, annually, so on and so forth. What does that mean? Yearly, right? So we're just going to put time as 1. If it doesn't specify time, if it says nothing about time, your time is 1 year, okay? And it's because we're talking about annual percents. And then how much money did they make with this investment? The income from these investments was $945. Okay, so our table's filled in. Yes, everybody okay with that? The way we find our answer is we multiply P times R times T plus, because we had 2 investments, P times R times T equals our 945. So I'm going to rewrite that. X times 0.06 times 1 plus 12,000 minus X times 0.09 times 1 equals 945. Any questions with how we set that up? So top row plus bottom row equals big box. Yeah? Okay. So knowing that, now we just solve. Okay, so first things first, we want to simplify each term. Well, 0.06 times 1 is what? 0.06. So this is just 0.06x plus, here, what's 0.09 times 1? Isn't it just 0.09? So can we pretty much ignore this 1? Yeah, and it's 0.09. We have to distribute backwards. So 0.09 times 12,000 gives us 1,080. And then 0.09 times negative x is negative 0.09x equals 945. Now what? Combine which two? The x's. What's 0.06x minus 0.09x? Now that both sides are fully simplified, what do I do? Yeah, I have to get rid of this 10,000 or 1,080 minus 1,080. I have negative 0.03x equals negative 135. Last step. Yeah, divide both sides by negative 0.03. And I get x equals 4,500. Do I just box it and call it a day? No. What do I need to do? Read the question. So my question says, how much did the teacher invest at each rate? So I need to know the principal at both rates, at 6% and at 9%. Well, what represents my principal at 6%? Just x. And what does x equal? Yeah, so 4,500 was invested at 6%. And what represents my rate or my principal at 9%? Yeah, 12,000 minus x. So then we can do 12,000 minus 4,500, and I get 7,500. And there's your answers. Any questions with that? Okay, so knowing that, let's look at the next one. So this next one says an artist has sold a painting for $410,000. He needs some of the money in 6 months and the rest in 1 year. So this tells me time, and they're different. He can get a treasury bond for 6 months at 4.65%. So right away, I know I can get this 4.65, turn it into a decimal, and I get 0.0465. At how long? What's the time for that percent? And how do I write that as years? 0.5. Then it says, and 1 year, so time is 1 year, for the 4.91%. So we have to turn that into decimal, and I get 0.0491. His broker tells him his 2 investments will earn, what earn goes here, $14,961. How much should he invest at each rate? Well, we know his total investment is this, but now it's asking me how much he should invest at each rate. So do we know how it's split? No, so X is here. And what is my second one? 410,000 minus X, our total minus X. Any questions with that? So then the way we set that up is we're multiplying, adding, multiplying, equals. So X times 0.0465 times 0.5 plus 410,000 minus X. And then can we solve it? Yes. So I will tell you this one gets a little gross with our decimals, but we'll be fine. So when I multiply these first 2 numbers, I get 0.02325. Don't forget your X. Now I have 0.0491 times 1, which is just 0.0491. So I can cross off that 1. And I'm going to distribute. And that gives me this. And then when I multiply it here, I just get negative 0.0491x. Now what? Combine my x's. I know these are gross. Why don't we round it? Because it's not going to give us the exact answer. And when it comes to your money, do you want them rounding? Because let's be real, the bank ain't going to round up. So if they're going to round, which way are they going to round? Yeah, so we don't want anybody rounding when it comes to our money. So this gives us negative 0.02585x. Now what? Mm-hmm. So when you're done solving, this is what you should have. Any questions with that? So now I go back and read my question, and it says how much should be invested at each rate? How much should be invested at each rate? Well, that's my principal. That's what I'm putting in. So I know at 4.65%, it's just 200,000. And then if I do 410,000 minus 200,000, I get 210,000 at 4.91%. Because I had to plug it into these two to figure out what my interest, or what my amount invested was. Okay, when you're done writing that down, I am going to talk about two different things on your practice, and then I'm going to let y'all practice. If you look at number 2, it says he lost 10%. Y'all, every period I've had somebody write this on number 1. So everybody make sure they're looking at number 2. Yes? Okay, if he lost 10%, this is the second one, so this is the bottom row. He lost 10%. What are we going to plug in? Negative 0.10. He's losing 10%. It's a negative 10. Okay, everybody okay with that? Okay, now look at number 6. This one says a college professor wants to supplement her retirement income with investment interest. That just means she wants to, when she retires, she wants to also have more money coming in. Okay, if she invests $15,000 at 6%, did it say $15,000 total? No, it said $15,000 at 6%. So I know $15,000 at 6%. How much would she invest at 7%? Well, do we know? Or is it asking? If it's asking, that means we don't know, so that's our X. And then what do we put for time no matter what if it doesn't specify? 1. And then she made this much. Okay, so just having that conversation. If you have questions, what should you do?